I started surfing in the West Country of England and went on a few winter surf trips to get away from the English winter. And I met a lot of Australians. I came over here to visit friends and ended up staying. I had these dreams of self-sufficiency and living in a harmonious way with natural systems. So I was curious about permaculture and I started to get involved, and not realising it was also a very early beginning for permaculture here in Australia. So I was one of the first people to get involved in early courses, and it just went on and on from there. I worked on farms for my pocket money when I was a young man. Dreamt of living on a farm but could never afford to. So that dream was realised here in Australia. And I was really keen to buy a farm or acreage and start that dream again of living in a self-sufficient, low-footprint way. And permaculture allowed me to do that, and it eventually became my career. We're now at Zaytuna Farm, which is the home of the Permaculture Research Institute in northern New South Wales. And Tagari Farm is about an hour away, and it was originally a demonstration site for the Permaculture Institute. Tagari Farm was set up by Bill Mollison as a demonstration site and education centre. He's had a lot of unusual life experiences, especially involving the environment. He was a fisherman and a marine researcher, coastal researcher, and a forester and a forest researcher, and a studied and renowned biologist. He studied all of the life sciences and then started to lecture around a positive approach rather than a negative protest approach. There was the early days of protests when people realised things weren't going right and things were going wrong in the environment, and most people went into a protest mode. Bill realised early that protest wasn't doing us a lot of good, and still doesn't seem to be doing us a lot of good, and decided what we need to do is define what it is that would be the ideal situation, and instead of being negative, be positive and look towards solutions, aim towards positive interactions. And he came up with a design science that he called permaculture. Most of the systems of the earth at present are running on finite resources. So those finite resources have an end game, and it's not possible to have perpetual growth in a finite world. It's not possible to have perpetual capital gain in a finite world. All of those elements have to be reversed so that we can be sustainable and live a healthy and safe future. People are talking about going into carbon neutral situations. In permaculture, we're talking about carbon positive. We're talking about systems that increase the amount of carbon on Earth. Carbon is the base element of life. So all your living systems run on carbon as a main element, and it's stored energy from the sun. Permaculture provides all the needs for humanity in a way that benefits the environment. It turns the human footprint into a really beautiful footprint rather than a really ugly one. Organic farming in its essence is not using chemicals, and that can be just highly mechanised, highly industrialised, non-chemical farming. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a size ratio or a pattern that harmonises with nature or is non-soil destructive. In fact, a lot of organic farming today is very destructive farming because it's large scale, and it facilitates the inquiry people have in the cities who don't really know how it's produced. They just know it's not chemical. So non-chemical organic farming is obviously part of permaculture, like a coat hanger in a wardrobe. So is renewable energy, so is sensible architecture, so is beneficial waste systems, so are local economics. They're all coat hangers in a wardrobe. We design the whole wardrobe that fits them together. We design the toolbox that individual tools fit into. Organic farming can be a very, very useful part of human settlements and an essential part. But if you use it the wrong way, it's still a weapon against the environment for the sake of an economic return. I live more or less with the sun myself. I get up at first light and I work with the students and interns where we share all the jobs on the farm. This farm produces people, so we allow the students and interns to experience what they need to understand. The primary goal of permaculture is to provide a permanence of culture on the earth for people and all living things. When you engage in this, it becomes really interesting, and you accumulate knowledge easily. You exercise your neural pathways, become excited by the information because it actually is something you can use. I think it's good for your physical health. It's good for your mental health. It makes you feel more intelligent. You feel like you have a role to play. You feel like there's something meaningful that you can do with your life. Time expands in the moments of your life when you engage in something really meaningful. Every surfer remembers the best barrels they pulled into, and time's just ticking away at super slow motion, and it's locked in your memory. That's the kind of engagement that you get into when you're in meaningful work, meaningful engagement.